Welcome to the Pike County Report. I'm Brandon Roberts alongside Pike County Judge Executive Wayne T. Rutherford. And Judge, you and I sat down originally to discuss this show, and we're going to look back at 2012. And then we started discussing the things we have going on right now. And so we're going to look ahead at right now and ahead at 2013 once we found out all the things we had going on. And one of the things we wanted to talk about was the energy outlook with coal, natural gas, and others.
Brandon, I think that the people out there deserve to know what's going on in their county government, and we want to be transparent. So we're going to try to use this time to come into their homes and their businesses and give them just a peek at what's going on in their county government. The energy outlook, and I know that there are a lot of people unemployed today because of the coal situation, but the outlook for coal in the future years and the long term is very good. There's nothing known to man in the world that can replace the coal. 22% of the coal in the United States is in the United States, 33% in China. But the energy outlook for coal on the export market is great. And Pat and I was down to a meeting with the Corps of Engineers recently, and we saw the coal in the stockpiles above Louisa, which goes to the river for export to New Orleans primarily. But you wonder why you got a mountain of coal down there just as big as the hills. They don't have mountains down there, they got hills. We got mountains up here. But we saw that, and so I was talking to Charles Carlton, and Pat and I had a conversation about it, that why are they doing so much coal on the ground down there that's mined in eastern Kentucky? And yet we've got all these miners cut off and so forth. But realizing that they had a drought in the southern part of the United States, a lot of people says it's the climate problem that we have in this country, and the ozone and so forth, but they have had a drought. The drought is still lingering. Looks like it's ending, and the water in the Mississippi River was down so low that they couldn't get the barges through to get the coal from the Ohio River down the Mississippi to New Orleans. Then you had the Panama Canal, which is being widened now, and the contract has been going on for years, ends in 2014, and they can get the bigger ships through there. So now they're having to use the smaller ships for the exportation of coal. So that's the reason we got so much coal on the ground. They're getting ready for the export market. So I think in the long term, our situation, because of a lot of miners cut off, an example is the ICG Arch Mineral job that was shut down in Knott County. Pike Countyans made up for over 50% of those employees that was cut off. So when you look at your numbers, we have 38,083 people that leave Pike County early in the morning every day to go into the state of Virginia or West Virginia or other counties in eastern Kentucky to work in the coal industry and other industries. We have, ironically, about that same amount that pass each other on the road coming into our businesses and coal corporations and companies in Pike County to work. So the future is bright.
And Judge, you've said before, I believe, that this is not an uncommon trend. You know, the
coal
boosting production, and then a lull.
Feast and famine have been the coal industry for years and years and years. I can remember both elections when Dwight Eisenhower was elected the first time back in the 60s, and the second time. We had a coal boom, and then we had, of course, it bottomed out, and it's gone on for years in cycles. And we have a coal to liquid program that we're still working on. It's still our goal. Pike County has a construction permit and an air permit. We have that today in hand. We're working with Transgas out of New York on a program to change coal into liquid, which would bring coal job and construction jobs. And one of those facilities, there are three of them. One's over in West Virginia, Mingo County. Mingo County, a very small county. And then you have one in the Phelps area, and then you have one at the airport that's in Pike and Floyd County. The footprint of that plant is 400 acres, and it would take 3,000 employees per site if this package comes together. And, of course, we've been working on it for a long time, going to continue to work on it. But let me let the people know what's happened in the world, and it's just like this. Our energy situation has changed. And Charles Carlton, our energy director, and I was in a meeting in Louisville recently when an official with the largest transmission company in America gave us some vital information that certainly has played out. And I can remember back during the election when Romney spent several $1 million saying drill baby drill in Alaska, and come to find out Alaska's not even the #1 producer of oil in America anymore. It is Texas. By the end of 2014, they will be third. North Dakota will go into second, and that is fossil fuels, the importation of fossil fuels. A lot of people don't realize it, but Canada is where we buy most of our imported oil. The second is Mexico. Third is Venezuela. I think it was 10.8 that they contribute. Then by 2017, this hemisphere will no longer be dependent on Saudi Arabia or the cartel. We will be producing all of the energy that we need on this hemisphere. By 15 years, the United States will be the largest exporter of fossil fuels, and that's oil, natural gas, and coal. And we will be the largest exporter in the world. It changed just like this, and we will be exporting today Russia. People don't realize this. Russia is the leader in the world in exporting fossil fuels. The United States will pass Russia up. We had the Industrial Revolution in the early 1900s, right on up to the 40s and the 50s in manufacturing. That left. The people like Apple, Steve Jobs started sending all of their jobs. If you have something from Apple and they're changing. They're coming back to the United States to understand their new Steve Jobs had moved them over there, and since he has passed, they have a new CEO, and they're looking to start manufacturing something. But they're going to start bringing all the jobs back to this country because of our energy situation changing, and we will have the cheapest energy in the world and enough to supply not only us, but we're exporting. Example, they have 7 ports. Today, the large transmission companies in America are transforming those from importing natural gas to exporting natural gas, $15 billion today. And we will be the largest exporter of natural gas. Then look what that does for us. We are have been for many years the largest producer of natural gas in Kentucky.
Well, Judge, I'm glad you mentioned natural gas. Explain a little bit what's going on with the natural gas right now in Pike County, with the production and the price and things like that.
We don't know what's going on. We know that the projections on the severance tax for coming back to Pike County under the state statute, that when the state gave myself and the treasurer, who'd been here 26 years, and Rhonda James, the CPA, who'd been here 5 years and been in the industry, when they gave us the coal figures, we lowballed it. And that's the reason we can say that we're in good shape in regard to our projections in our budget in coal. Now, that's not so in the natural gas. We don't know what's happened. The other counties that produce, and they're not every county has oil. There are only some counties here in eastern Kentucky, not Floyd, and these counties. and then there's some western Kentucky, very, very little. But we don't know what's happened. There's investigation going on trying to determine what's happened. The bottom fell out in Pike, and it did in the other county. The other counties have major budget problems. We're such a large county that we're going to be able to weather the storm, and I get that from the meetings that we've had in-house with our treasurer and with the finance director and with the court, with everybody involved in it. We're going to be able to weather this storm of this minerals tax where the bottom dropped out of it. The other counties, I don't know what they're going to do. You got Florida County's got a problem. Theirs is coal, not mineral, which we call mineral is natural gas, and of course they have limestone. But we don't know. There are investigations going out to determine why the bottom only fell out in Pike County. Now we only have one big producer. It produces probably more than 60%. So that investigation will tell us about natural gas. But worldwide, the United States of America is moving into a leadership which will bring us from the Industrial Revolution and the Manufacturing Revolution into what was called the Brain Revolution, and then you had your Steve Jobs, who moved all of them overseas. Now this is the new revolution, and that revolution that's going to the future generation, my children and grandchildren in future years, is going to have a good life in America, because we're going to be the leader in the world in the exportation of, and that is because of the new technology and how you get oil and gas out of the ground. That is the horizontal drilling, and all of the finds they've had in the Marcellus field, which ironically runs from the state of New York and ends not here where we're sitting today, but ironically on every map, Brandon, we've looked at,
Peter
it ends
Creek,
at Phelps, Kentucky. But we are in the Utica, the find in Utica, which is the rich Ohio field where you got the same thing going on in North Dakota. You got a oil boom in North Dakota, as you're aware.
Yeah.
Because in North Dakota, most of their land is owned by not the federal government, where you have all these regulations and the hoops to jump through, but it's owned by private people, and they can come in and they can produce. That's the reason they're going up on the scale in the production in the country. Ohio is in the Utica field, and they have an oil boom going on, as you know, in Ohio. We are elated that Mrs. Jackson, Lisa Jackson, has gone from this administration. We are elated that the Energy Secretary Chu, which is definitely not a friend of coal, he is a friend of nuclear, I understand. But we're glad those two people is out of this administration. Now, we're hopeful that this president will understand on his appointment of what coal is meant to this country and going to mean to this country. And I know that the coal industry and the coal miners have been the heroes, not the villains. And I can remember growing up when they talked about World War I and World War II, it was the coal miners that got an exemption from serving in armed services if they were producing this valuable commodity to make the arms to fight the wars, World War I, World War II, to keep this country free. Then what's happened, we've kept the lights on and industry all these years. We talked about coal. It was producing in America, 50% of the coal was providing the energy at the electric power plants to keep the lights on in America. It's going to go down to about 39%, but it's still going to be the king. Future years, long term, it's going to be the king. Now natural gas is picking up. And I know that the Big Sandy plane, and I've talked to Charles Carlton about it recently, the Big Sandy plane has changed 3 times already, but right now they're not going to bring natural gas to that plant. What they're going to end up probably, they say closing it down, but they're going to take a plant in West Virginia and pick up what they lose going on the grid. And we don't want that. We want that plane to stay open and use coal. And of course we're going to fight it to the end, but that's their plans now. And they need to understand that they're right in the middle of the coal field, Now, ironically, if they had have went to natural gas, instead of getting the natural gas from domestic production here in eastern Kentucky, it would have been taken from a line coming out of Louisiana and Texas, and they would use that natural gas to run that power plant at Big Sandy. But now that's not what they've got on the drawing board, but they may change again within the next year. So it is, we have some other projects going. Brandon, we have a green project we're doing with Kentucky Power Company. We just had another meeting recently. And this methane that we have in our landfill, we've been over there 21 years and it's producing this. We was able to get a grant, I think, in 2010, and we put the 15 wells in. And now we're burning this valuable commodity energy. It's not a lot, but we're flaring it out into the air. And we are working with Dr. Cox and this company. Dr. Cox is a professor at Virginia Tech. We're working with him and his company that they have the same one at the landfill at Charlottesville, Virginia. And we're working with him to do the same thing at our landfill, is to use that, put a smart meter in, and bring our utility costs down and saving the taxpayer of the county money.
Judge, I believe Charles Carlton said, too, that our landfill is producing more than that one that they're actually
It is, and
using.
we got 2 wells that has water in them that can be cleaned up. And, of course, we've talked to Dr. Cox and others about how we can get more methane out. This is not a huge project for either the Kentucky Power Company, and the Kentucky Power Company has the one over in Virginia too. When we had the meeting, the fellow came in from Columbus with the people from the office in Frankfort.
Mr. Hemsworth, I believe.
And our local people, Bob Shurtleff and the other from our local office here, they attended the meeting. I thought we had a good meeting. I think we got this back on track. It had died a little bit, but hopefully with the tax incentives, and they are some in a way, that it make this project profitable or break even. I have President Polly of Kentucky Power Kentucky. I've told him recently that the National Association of Counties absolutely love partnerships. They love partnerships.
That they do.
And as you know, you prepare those things. And I think that board up there, if this is successful, and we can do this and take that valuable commodity that's going out, and it's ironic that the federal government will let you burn and still send that into the atmosphere when we could be using it for energy. So I think that this is back on track. So that's about what's happening in regard to energy. We have some other programs that I have signed confidentiality agreements on that we can't discuss today. That's around, it meets our comprehensive plan that we are planning our future and setting goals around energy, which we are America's energy capital.
Judge, let's talk about something that you've been working on since I've been here and continue to work on, and it looks like it's moving a little bit, is the access road at Fish Trap.
Access road at Fish Trap. Matter of fact, we have just returned from a meeting at the Corps of Engineers. Chief of Staff Jeannie Robinson was setting up a meeting. As soon as we get the approval of the Corps of Engineers, we go back to Frankfort and meet with the Secretary. We think we have got it worked out between the Commonwealth of Kentucky and that is the Transportation Cabinet, and what kind of road we construct up there. The Corps of Engineers have taken position we can build a park road. The state took the position, and our engineer was really upset when the design that they was requiring was like an interstate highway. So we got that worked out, that we can take the minimum that the state has in construction of a highway or a roadway and or the park thing and get them approved. Here's the problem we had. They've had that problem since the dam opened way back in the late 60s and 68. They left those people isolated. They didn't give them a choice whether or not they buy them out and move out. They left them in Harrican Creek, Johnnican Creek, and Upper Pompey. And we've fought this for years. I fought it when I was in office the first time from 1970 up until 82, and then again when I came back in office. And ever since I've been here, we're still fighting the fight. But the governor of the Commonwealth, Steve Beshear, stepped up to the plate and gave us multi-county severance tax along to get this project moving, and $2 million. But what's happened is the state has now required us to move the elevation of the road, not the core. The state move it up to a new elevation. Well, we had their coal in the bottom elevation, coal seam. We worked with the owners of the coal. We was getting that donated to the county. Then we would sell the coal, and that would make the project viable economically. But nope. Now we have to go back to Frankfort after we hopefully can get the Corps approval in the next few days, and go back and say we're back down here now, and you have changed us to another elevation, and we're short X amount of money, and we have to have it to complete this project. And the governor and the state's already got $2 million in the project. So that's where we stand on the Fish Trap Road.
Well, like you've said before, not only is it a matter of convenience, but the most important thing is the fact that fire trucks and ambulances have trouble getting in there, and as well as absenteeism with their school for the kids.
Let me say this. The elevation on some of those roads is 85%, 80 and 85% coming out of there. When it snows or ice, they can't get out to go to school. They have to drive 42 miles to get groceries, go to get medical, go to the doctor, get their prescriptions filled, and for school. Say if they go to University of Pike or the community college, they drive 42 miles. Once this road completed, believe it or not, 12 miles. So that gives those people an access out. It also gives, as you said, we have a fire station. It's a branch of the Millard Fire Station, and we have a sub-branch set up right at the core property, right at where this road would go at the end of the fish trap into that area. And you would have a fire truck available within 5 or 6, 7 minutes or 8 minutes into this area up there, back on that mountain to protect these people's homes. And the same way with our ambulances. They would have access in there instead of having to drive all the way around and have access to that. So we're hopeful finally, all of these years, we have had Congressman Perkins, Congressman Rogers. They have fought with the Corps, and I say literally fought with the Corps. They've been 50, 60 meetings over the years with the Corps. They've been public meetings held that I've attended in the 70s, 80s, and have attended even under this term in regard to this situation that they have in regard to the Fish Trap Road.
Well, Judge, and it looks like in 2013 the commercial air project is going to still be worked.
We have. I've always supported commercial air. The airport, when the county physical court controls the severance tax, not the legislature, the Pike County Physical Court appropriated $1 million to build that airport. $1 million to match the coal company's contribution to mining the coal to build it. Ironically, the board was the Pike County Airport Board. The city had withdrawn from the airport board a few years before and said they didn't want to be a part of the next one. The county could go ahead and build the airport. Then what happened, the city runs a 10-foot corridor up without even consulting with the county, takes over and puts it in the city limits. We have always been commercial air. The Azoo Airlines, we had worked with them when they was at Somerset. We'd worked with the congressman. We had worked with consultants trying to get commercial air service. Then it comes up to the end. Pike County's left out. And ironically, the people of the county understood that, because if you remember, the local paper took a poll, and it was 65% of the people agreed with the county government that we should have been in on this project from the beginning instead of the Chamber of Commerce and others going off on their own. But we've always supported it, and they wondered why that I wouldn't put it on the agenda for court. And I can tell the people today, they wasn't the votes on the court to get it passed. And until I saw that we had the votes on the court to get it passed so that this become a reality, we had to wait until the magistrates settled down with all this hoopla going on, all this publicity going on, all the accusing going on. And then when we knew that we had the majority, then we put it on, and it passed. What was the vote? 2 no, and the other members, myself, yes, and the project became a reality. If they would have taken us in on the front end of it, begin with, we wouldn't have went through all this. It would have been just routine for the physical court and the city commission and the chamber, who certainly support it, but they hadn't put anything into the airport. And when they come and said, look, we need $5,000 to do a study, I said, well, we've got $1 million in it. You all got nothing. So I don't think with our situation the way we are in the middle of starting a deep recession in the country, and our budget is tight as a banjo string, and you're coming to us at the wrong time, that money would have had to been put in the budget that we prepared before June the 30th and had approved by the state, and the money would have been there. But that's beside the point. We want commercial air service. We're going to get commercial air service. It's simple. The money that has been appropriated from the federal government is a 2-year budget. It guarantees one of these carriers that comes in here can't lose money. So you're going to get a carrier in here, and I commend the city took their trip out west, and they've met, I think, in Western State with them to bring the airline service in here, and we want it in here. We worked with the Embry-Riddle University to try to have a relationship with them at our airport. We've done a lot of work, held a lot of meetings. Judge Hayes was involved in that with them and their people and the airport board. So there are a lot of things that's been going on at the airport, that a lot of misinformation out from different people and in the newspaper, but the county supports the airport. It is a county facility. It is now operated, and the county took the city back in. It is now Pike County and Pikeville Airport. But without even consulting us, they go up and run a 10-foot corridor and take it into the county. And we don't think that's right. We ought to be involved. And we are an integral part of the airport. We built the airport with the cooperation of the Hatcher family and other funds that we controlled at that time and put into the project. But it's going to be a reality. The question is, and let's hope and pray that after 2 years that we're going to be able to sustain and to economically afford this commercial air service to go on. So I look hopefully, and we all do that. So we all hope and pray that this will happen, because it's another tool in our economic development toolbox that we have as we develop Pike County and develop the county seat of Pike County, which is Pikeville. We certainly want that tool in our toolbox in the future years as we develop Pike County and bring those important jobs to Pike County.
Judge, we got a lot of programs going on in the county right now. Many of them stemming from our back-to-back floods we had in 09 and 10, one of which the NRCS buyout program, which is moving forward. But we were told yesterday in our monthly staff meeting by Mr. Jimmy Kaiser that he had been notified by FEMA that the FEMA mitigation buyouts should start up here in the next week or 2 weeks or so, I think he said.
I've been judged 6 terms, and I've had 21 declarations that I declared, a governor declared, and the president declared. One of those was snow. 2 was floods, not river floods, and that was the ones you mentioned in 09 and 10. They was from the sky, just dropped out of the sky and caused us flooding. All the other floods had been from the rise of the Tug Fork or the Big Sandy River, and from our other streams, of course. But For years, FEMA would come in after the president would declare, and then they had a figure that I think is 29,000 that they give people to rebuild their homes and let them move back into the floodplain. I testified in Congress many years ago, the first time, and testified since, but Herbie Deskins was county attorney, and we testified after 77 flood before a committee of the House and Senate in Washington. And what we said, don't put these people back in the floodplain, buy them out. And we've continued to say that over the years, that look, federal government, and I know that after the 77 flood, which was our largest one, 2 weeks after the 77 flood, HUD was coordinator of the flooding in the United States at that time, and we went up and testified. The flood that took more lives in the United States was the Johnstown, Pennsylvania flood, about 2 or 3 weeks after our flood in 77. Their people was there and testified. Our testimony caused the FEMA to be set up by Congress. It came out of those two committees. The committees, D. Huddleston was a senator from Kentucky, was chairman, a member of the committee in the Senate at that time. And we had a public hearing here, which Congressman Perkins was sitting on the platform with the leadership of the agencies in Washington that could cause this happen. And when Walter May and myself testified to begin with, he got off the stage and come down and sat with the people and said, let's solve this problem. But they never did. They put it off. Finally, they decided that they spent enough money on all these floods, let's get the people out of the floodplain. It's going to take years and years and years for this to work. We only have $7 million to work with. Half of that comes from the United States Department of Agriculture and the NRCS wing of them, and then half of it came from FEMA. Jeannie Robinson, my chief of staff, has been the one that's been looking after the NRCS through county government, and also Mr. Stacy, and with the assistance of Jimmy Kaiser, and we have been looking after the FEMA one. NRCS is into it. They have already bought, I think, 6 or 7 out. Got more. They're going to get up into the high 20s or maybe to 30 with the money that they have left, and they'll be moving people out of the floodplain. Then FEMA had decided that, well, we spent enough money over the years and moving them back in the floodplain. They give us $3-point-some million. And that program now, as you stated, that Jimmy Kaiser, our floodplain manager, who is our point man, has said FEMA has given the okay, and they have moved in snail space. I'd say like a turtle. They move very slow, the bureaucratic agencies. FEMA is finally ready. We have our local engineering firm, which is involved in it, and we are going to start to buy the people out. And they are doing that in, as you know, the 09 flood went down 119. You was involved in it over to Belfry. And, of course, the 2010 flood went over to Coon Creek, up Coon Creek, and ended up with all the damage and got Coon Creek again, really at the mouth, and then got it at Horace's Creek and those creeks all the way from Elkhorn City down to even to Peyton's Creek, or those creeks down on US 460. So yes, our program's moving. It's going to take years and years and years. Then where are you going to put these people? Then it goes to the 460 development plan, which we're getting approximately 374 level acres, which we've never had level acres to build on. We have a study going on. We was again able to get a grant for $300,000, and now we have a study that's not completed, but where do we get? What is the first property we're going to get? It's Stone Coal on Beaver. We'll be getting that in the next. We had a meeting with Mrs. Holbrook from the Transportation Cabinet. She said any day now within the next 30 days, we'll be getting a deed for that property. Now, tomorrow evening, or when I say tomorrow evening, I don't know when this will run, but on Friday,
February 15th.
Friday of this work, February 15th, the day after Valentine's Day, and let me take this opportunity to wish everybody a happy Valentine's Day. It's a time of love, and it's a time that we can again be thankful that we got families and our wives and our children and family that looks out for us, and it gives us an opportunity to say that. And I want to wish everybody a happy Valentine's Day. But the day after Valentine's Day at 4 o'clock, we will be with our people from this county meeting with the Secretary in regard to that housing. The Federal Highway Administration is involved in it. We will have restrictions in that deed, but we're working away that, and we have a plan that's been put together in regard to this US 460 development plan, in regarding to our first, that is middle income housing and low income housing, and it's going to be, looks like maybe 100 and some units, and we will have as much property there that we have on Smith Fork, but it's in levels, and we will phase it. But we have to, when we go to this meeting on the 15th at 4 o'clock in the conference room of Secretary Hancock in Frankfort, we'll be, and the Federal Highway Administrator will be there with our county attorney, with our housing people locally, and with our staff. We will try to get an understanding how that we can meet the federal guidelines and meet the restrictions that they have on this, because it comes under the ARC road building. And so we hope to get that meeting behind us so we can move on with this housing. And we know that we've got to do this because we're talking about the floodplain. We've got to have places for people to go. We also know that the project that we had at Murray's Branch, and I was on the advisory board, that is dormant because of the national economy and the economy in Kentucky and here, that's not proceeding, and that was supposed to take care of a great number of middle-income housing for Pike County. And since that, we have an opportunity to go ahead and get this project started up there till we get out of this economy that this situation we're in America and in Kentucky and in Pike County of this economic situation we got. We're beginning to come out of it, and let's hope that we can do that, and let's hope in future years that we can see something happen on the 300 acres at Murray's Branch. So this is an opportunity for us.
Well, Judge, I think while we're on the topic of floods, I think we'd be remiss if we didn't remind folks about the National Flood Insurance Program. Pike TV, the News Express, the EKB, the county government, all of us were involved in getting the word out about the new floodplains that have been taken in, mostly in my neck of the woods and on Peter Creek.
It can be easily understood. If you're eligible for flood insurance in this county and you don't go purchase it now, come later on this year, sometime up in middle of April, then you're going to pay 4 times as much for your flood insurance. Now, what caused this? The 2 floods you mentioned, Brandon, in 2010 or 2010, we had different areas of the county flooded that had never been flooded in the floodplain. It was a different type. It was from the sky down. So the federal government come in and said we have to redo the floodplain, have to re-engineer it, have to have and tell you who's in the floodplain. Well, with the national economy the way it is, they couldn't do what they had done before, and every 5 years they come in and let a contract, they do the whole county.
Right.
It takes them maybe 7 or 8 years to get through the process. They phased it because of shorter money and took in only certain areas in Pike County to redo. Those areas is where you mentioned primarily. Now, over here, there's some here. There's some it takes in from Pikeville down to the county line, and then you go over into these areas. But with all the publicity that we've got out with partners, with all of these, with East Kentucky Broadcasting, with Appalachian News Express, and with Pike TV, and with county government, and with even a program on here bringing the state fella in is saying, please understand. And one thing that people need to understand, flood insurance covers slides also. So if you're living on a hill and you're eligible to get flood insurance, go buy it. It's cheap today. It won't be cheap once the new elevations go in and you're taken into the
There's
area.
an employee in the courthouse, Judge, that you and I know very well, not in the floodplain. Her house got knocked completely off its foundation by a slide from behind her house. So
Judge Hayes told me the fellow that said, you know, I live on a hill and I'll not be coming to public hearing. And Judge Hayes said, well, wait, that slides. He said, oh, he called Judge Hayes back after the meeting and said, thank you, because I didn't know that it covered slides, and I'm in the area, and now I can go buy my flood insurance, and we can sleep better at night. So that's something that we certainly want to, and they can call our office 432-6247. They can call Jimmy Kaiser 432-6204 and get any information that they need about the areas that are eligible. The map has been run in the paper, and I'm sure to be run again.
And Jimmy has a database of 911 addresses where you can say, I live at such and such house number, such and such road, and he can punch it up and say.
And it's on our website.
And he can say, yes, you're in it.
It's on our website,
yes.
too.
And it's on the...
it's on Pike TV website, I presume, too. If not, it will be on the information that's available.
Well, Judge, while we're coming up on, it's currently tax time, as everyone knows, and we saw an article the other day that sparked your attention about the earned income credit and how few people take advantage of this earned income credit. Even the governor and lieutenant governor are going around the state urging people to apply for this earned income credit.
Tell them how much it is.
On an average of $2,245, people got back from just the earned income credit by filing for it.
Let me start to the beginning of this. Myself and Carl Napier are on the board of the Community Action Program, which is known as CAP. CAP asked us if we had a location, a room that volunteers could come and fill out tax returns at free, at no cost. We have provided them a good space in the basement of the courthouse to do this. Then when the governor has been on television with commercials and on talk shows and on programs saying there are 20% of the people in Kentucky that's not even applying, and you have to file before you're eligible. Imagine what that money is that they're missing out in Kentucky and Pike County for not filing for the income for that tax credit. And the people need to know that they have this office over there. I think we have the number. You got the number?
432-6224. They're in the basement of the courthouse. They're in there Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 4. These volunteers are IRS certified.
Correct.
And there are guidelines to qualify for the earned income credit. But just my personal opinion, reading over them, a lot of people will qualify. You know, it's things like if you're married filing separately, you don't qualify. But you know, that's not a
the
common
governor
filing.
said to the people of Kentucky, look what that would do to the economy of Kentucky.
$905 million in benefits of 401,000 EIC claims.
And
2011.
Imagine what that will mean to the economy of this county. Put that money in your pockets that you're eligible for, but you're not taking advantage of it. So we have the tools for you to do it. This office is open, and it's open on, give the days.
It's
open.
Monday through Thursday, 8:30 to 4. And this office was instituted by the governor's office. There's 200 of these free tax preparation sites in the state. One of them is in the basement of the Pike County Courthouse.
And thank you for bringing that one up, because it's important to the people of this county.
All right, and Judge, we got something else that came up yesterday. Like I said, we got about 8 or 10 more topics to talk about yesterday evening and this morning. The sandbagging operation at the South Williamson flood wall is well underway.
Let me just give you a little background to that. Corps of Engineers built flood walls. They had built flood walls, and the federal government financed them at Pikeville and South Williamson. Then the Corps decided that we don't want to look after them anymore. We're going to turn them over to the city of Pikeville. Not only to us, they did all over the United States. We're going to turn it over to cities in the city limits. We're going to turn it over to county and the county. And they did that. And the Corps, in their usual actions, required to the tune of about $300,000 that upgrades be made on their design that they had approved and built. And we held a meeting with our state people and our federal people and somebody from the congressman's office in the conference room at the courthouse. And Jack Sykes, the engineer, the city engineer and the county engineer, and we decided that we had to go to see the congressman himself, even though we had one of his assistants, that this had to be done, or those flood walls, people would not be eligible for flood insurance, and people with mortgages would be hurting. So Jack Sykes went to Washington, and then later, when the city manager went to Washington, he also conferred with the congressman on our dilemma. Congressman Rogers, with his help, and with the working through the state, and we finally got that resolved, and it ended up, and one thing that we hadn't done, one thing they was required, was being a sandbag unit, because the gates have to close, same as here at Pikeville, but we had no storage building, so we working on a storage building to comply, and of course they're paying for it, which they should. It was their design to begin with. They all designed the building, build it when they build a flood wall. But we maintained the flood wall. We cut the grass. We cut the weeds. We make sure that our backup motor. We have one that's it's on natural gas now at South Williamson. We have a backup generator. We had to take the backup. It wasn't working when I came into office, and we had to send it, and Hatch, our transportation department, matter of fact, he hauled that up to Athens, Ohio, to the company that put it in to begin with, and we had it rebuilt. We put it on the front end, the other one on the back end, then put the newer one been rebuilt, and then we have a plan in place which they require, and we have our county employees who, when they get a call, and they've got a call twice in the last month, and had to go over and go through the protocol of getting ready to close the gate. So that's the reason the sandbag building is being constructed over there.
Well, so speaking of construction, other than road construction, Judge, I want to try to get through these kind of quick, because there's one in particular thing I think we need to talk about today, which will certainly make a lot of people happy around the county. But our judicial center here in downtown Pikeville, beautiful building, huge building, right on, actually ahead of schedule, right?
We're ahead of schedule about 30 days because of the mild winter and so forth.
And the last word I got was June 6th, it should be completely occupied.
Yeah, and 30 days before that example, they're going to start moving the circuit court clerk's office.
Yeah, and then they said,
there, and then they'll be fully occupied by June 6th. Well, our leases are not up till June the 30th, so that's fine with us. For the Justice Building, the county owns the Justice Building. The county will own the Judicial Building. The state, of course, and the legislature participates with bonding, and then it comes to the county. We will maintain it and operate it. We'll be hiring. We have had meetings with the AOC, and we'll be hiring. Employees down there, and hiring a maintenance engineer to run the building. It's got a sophisticated system in it. We will be a LEED building, and that is a green building. It's something to see. We was down and toured the area and saw all this growing up on the roof.
I'm fascinated by that roof, actually.
Oh, and people will be fascinated by it as they come into their building. Ironically, this building is going to be more than 90,000 square feet, and related to the Expo Center, it's 120. But it's a huge building. None of the county offices will be moving into that building. It will be occupied by the state court system. It will be occupied by every district court, Judge Mullins and Judge Friend, and then Judge Combs and Judge Coleman, and the circuit court clerk's office. The state police will be down there for their driver's test, and it will be strictly state, and they of course will pay the county, and the county will pay the bonds off as the years go by. Mm-hmm. So what a beautiful building it is, and what a working. I ended up under the Kentucky law statute as chairman of the board that builds this. But what a board that was able to put together. Even when the first board came out and we got the list and they didn't have anybody from the city on it, we said, no, you can't have that. You're going to have to block some streets off, and they need their input in it. It's in the city, and it's going to change their flow of traffic. And we ended up getting the mayor put on, and his representative, the city manager, have done a great job with the input from the city, and it's going to change the flow of traffic in that particular area of the city, and the building is going to be a great asset for 100 years. The way this building has been constructed, there will be adequate parking because you have the parking garage and walking distance over the hill on the field. I might add that the majority of the board did not want to build this in this location. We didn't want to bother the historic Pinson Hotel, but isn't it ironic that it happened the way it happened, and then you have Anna Pinson, who's in that family, will be coming to work every day on the property that was made possible.
And like you said, the board also was very diligent in making sure that history is preserved in that building by using some of the same exact pieces of architecture, if I'm not mistaken.
Let me say this: the first drawing was brought to us by the architect firm, and we looked at it. It was great, but it didn't match the city of Pikeville, and we just said, "Great, looks good, but go back and try again. Get us another choice that we have. Might give us 2 more." And they brought one, and I said, today, while you're up here, Bobby Brandon will go with you out in the city manager will go with you, and you take pictures of the city, and you go back and do your design. Look at that building today. You have your big windows out of the county courthouse.
Yeah.
Fits right in. Then you go up the street, you go to the post office in the main street next to the park, and here you got the round entrance, and they're named for that architecturally. And there you've got that. Then you look up at the federal building to the top of the tower, and you got the same top up there.
Well, and then we have the arched window.
They done a great job in blending in that building with the city of Pikeville. And it's going to be a great asset. It's going to end up around $33 million, a great investment. We was the tail that wagged the dog. They approved it, and they have a hearing and asked us to come down and justify why we ought to have it that type of building built with that cost for a court system. It was easy to go down and defend. We had the 3rd largest court in the Commonwealth. We had more cases. That means we had the number of cases. They built a building 20 years ago, the Justice Building, that was not built to any standard. 2 smaller courtrooms, and we was busting out, needed rooms, and it was easy. And I know that my presentation was long to that committee, but it was about 45 minutes. And I even talked about my trip down there on the Mountain Parkway where it was 2 lanes, and yet we're energy rich. We're energy rich, and we're energy rich, and we pay that into the state, and we deserve many things up here that we don't get people to look east for from out of Frankfort, and we was able to go on with this project.
Well, Judge,
I know we only got about 5 minutes,
but there's one thing I know that you want to talk about, and I think everybody will be interested to hear, and that is the developments in the excursion train that we've been working on for so long.
Look, we held a meeting last year in the governor's conference room in Frankfort with vice presidents of CSX. People knows that we've had for about going on 6 years through the Pike County government and the Pike County tourism and ever tourism from Ashland, including Boyd County and Greenup County, all the way to Elkhorn City. We have every tourism. We have every physical court.
Every
we have
city
every
commission.
every one of them has passed, and we have a package that's been given to CSX and said you've made more money off the Big Sandy division of hauling our coal out of here to keep this country running and keep the lights on, and you've made more money as a railroad, and you ought to put something back. And you ought to let us have this excursion train, the biggest economic development project on tourism in Kentucky. You would have a train running from Greenup County to Elkhorn City through the breaks and back in for railroad days at Elkhorn City. We have not been able to get them, and hopefully we're going to be talking to the president of CSX this spring in Jacksonville. But then there's Norfolk Southern. We're blessed to be big enough, and we're the largest county and land area in the Commonwealth, to have two railroads.
Yeah, my end of the county.
You're in the county.
All
You've got Norfolk Southern's all over there, in Peter Creek and Pond Creek.
Yeah, and your end is.
And over on this side, we're CSX. So then we decided, well, we're not getting no cooperation from CSX. So Charles Carlton says, let's go to Grundy. And he goes and holds meetings in Grundy, and he goes and holds meetings in Williamson. And then we send a letter to the president of Norfolk Southern, President
Wick Mormon.
We got a letter back from Wick Mormon, said, look, I think this is a great idea. We have a steam engine that can pull it, and and you all need to contact this fellow. We're going to have you an excursion train that runs from Buchanan County down into Pike County in Kentucky, down into West Virginia. It's called a tri-state excursion. That is going to happen. Our Pike County tourism will be involved in it, and the people at Grundy, there's a committee being put together of the West Virginia, and Pike County people to make this a reality. But guess who he told us to contact, and we did.
A man named John Irwin.
John sends us an email back and said, folks, I've got the message from the president, and we're going to have an excursion in 2014. Date's not set yet. But he said, I'm from Hardy, Kentucky, is where I lived for a number of years, and
raised up Narrows
Branch. So here we are. We've got Norfolk Southern's excursion set, and it didn't take us but a few months. Charles Carlton has been the coordinator. He's done a great job on it, and that is going to happen in 2014. And the people, it will take a large number of cars to pull that by these enthusiasts. Pat and I took the trip on the New River from Huntington to Hinton this past year, and what an experience it was. It'll be more experience over there because this will be a steam engine pulling it and not the diesel.
And Judge, I've never. I mean, I guess I should have assumed, but I didn't. The amount of train lovers in this county.
Oh gosh, you can. What the railroad has meant, what the coal miners have meant, what the railroaders have meant, and they complemented each other. We got about a minute, so you need to probably close this out.
Well, we have our fall horse trail ride date set. Saturday.
Give it to them so you'll have it.
Saturday, May 18th. Saturday, May 18th is it's called the Pike County Horse Trail Ride now. Also, of course, the dates for Hillbilly Days have been released, April 18th through 20th. And we are still working on several projects, the Sports Corner and the Heritage Hall, Judge, which Judge Hayes has donated a lot of his personal collection to, the Fallen Police Officers and Firefighters Memorial. We're still trying to develop the trail system. Wish we had time to go into all this stuff. But of course, there's another day and another program. We got plenty to talk about, but other than that, unless you have anything to add.
Got plenty to add, but we'll have to wait for another program.
Well, until next time, I'm Brandon Roberts. Thanks for watching the Pike County Report. On behalf of Judge Rutherford, thank you.